Epicurean delight right here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did he make it or something? Is that how old you are?
Yes, exactly right. I tell you, the ancient Greeks and Romans, they knew how to drink. Let me tell you something.
Speaking of ancient Greeks and Romans, people should really make sure that they come on to our podcast and make sure to become a monthly contributor, because I don't know why, but we just want to, live kind of, so we can discuss silly things like philosophy and Greeks and Romans.
I just checked our latest patrons, and Plato has signed up. Plato is sending us some Greek money. It's not worth it.
There you go. So don't you want to be like Plato, guys? Make sure to become a monthly contributor. Or if you want to do just a one-time payment, we have a PayPal option. And we'd also greatly appreciate you sharing and subscribing and all those wonderful things. Right. But back to Plato and all those other Greek people. Yeah. In my first few weeks of school here, pretty much every class talks about Plato. Mm-hmm. And then there's exception. And the only exceptions are the ones that talk a little bit about Aristotle, who was a student of Plato, a direct student of Plato.
That's right.
I mean, from economics to biology to chemistry to zoology, obviously philosophy, mathematics,
you mean
psychology, economics.
Plato was mentioned in all of your classes, in those classes?
Pretty much there's always a little paragraph talking about how there was some Greek guy that started this whole thing. He was the first person in recorded history to really start.
Right.
And I mean, that's pretty incredible when you really because I mean, there obviously people looked at animals and they, did biology in that way. There's people who, thought of mathematics, the Mayans, all sorts of civilizations did that. But what made the Greeks significant is that they actually formalized it into a discipline which later got refined and reformed later on. And my question to you is, since the Greeks basically started everything, does that mean that we are restrained to whatever the Greeks came up with? Can we come up with a whole new field?
That's a really excellent question for I wish one of my students had asked me that question when I was teaching, but they never did. Number one, the great contribution which you just spoke about to all of thought, human thought, was that the ancients were the first ones to give us what's called a metaphysics. That is to say, a system of explaining things that are not explainable through science. So it's a very important thing.
Natural science.
Natural science. Yeah, physical science, science of observation. Physical scientists certainly, they don't even know what gravity is. They don't even know what they use gravity. They use electricity. They think that there are black holes, but they have never seen one. They've seen the effects of it. So there are a lot of things that science just doesn't have good explanations because they don't have good evidence, observation. Right. So the Greeks gave us a system. They started us on the road to developing a metaphysics. Think of metaphysics as a silly putty to fill in all of the cracks in science and philosophy and religion and theology and all and art. It sort of fills out the human urge to know everything. We want to know everything. So metaphysics has been in decline, as you have pointed out several times, because you're seeing.
You pointed it out very voraciously.
Yeah, but it's in decline, but it's making a comeback. It actually is making a comeback. Philosophers like Sir Roger Scruton and even Jordan Peterson in psychology, in chemistry, in biology, even in economics, metaphysics is making a comeback. And the reason for that is very simple. The reason is that science only can give us probability. It can never give us absolute truth. Inductive reasoning, as I used to tell my former department chairman, inductive reasoning is very limited to probability, high, low, and not worth mentioning.
So going back to the Greeks, though, it seems as though all the things you've said and all the things I've said are all. I mean, is there any unique form of study that could come out, that could be created, that the Greeks didn't come up with first?
Yes. I mean, the answer is yes. Okay, because the human ability to know and to think is always evolving upwards in the Chardinian view. You're a better example of a human being than I am. I'm an old geezer. I'm about ready to die. You're a young person just starting their life. You've read more books than I have when I was at your comparable age. Uh, so every generation is an improvement biologically and evolutionary speaking on the previous generation. So the answer is yes. We can always improve upon what the Greeks gave us. We owe them a great heritage, as you pointed out, but we can improve upon that. And the ways that we can improve upon it is, for instance, dealing with questions like quantum physics and the quantum computer. Why do I say this? Because the quantum computer defies Aristotelian logic and Platonic forms, but yet in a certain way, it reinforces Platonic forms. Let me tell you why. In a quantum computer, two atoms can actually give a yes and a no state. Two atoms can give yes and no states in the computing process. This actually doubles the ability for the computer to process. This is unheard of in Aristotelian logic. In Aristotelian logic, either A is A or it's not A. And between A and not A, there's no middle term. Those are the two first principles of thinking, right? But in quantum physics and in quantum logic, in quantum computing, you can have a state where something is yes and it is no at the same time. Now, how do you make, okay, but we don't know why. Where does the metaphysics come in? We don't know why this happens, and we don't even know how it happens. All we know is that it happens. So the difference between knowing that and knowing why is philosophy to be improved upon.
Okay, well, thank you, Professor Aristotle.
I'm sure if Aristotle was alive today, he would understand quantum physics.
Or maybe not remotely.
I think if you gave him an iPad, he'd get it pretty quickly.
Or okay, a record player in Joe Biden's case. In any event.
Anyway, to answer your question, we owe the Greeks a lot. And we can contribute to the whole process that they began. They didn't end philosophy, they began philosophy. Everything of philosophy is debatable.
And now you guys can begin our careers in podcasting by making sure to click the links below and to become a monthly subscriber to our Patreon, and we'd very much appreciate that. Also, don't forget, PayPal is also a terrific option. We'd very much appreciate you guys doing that. And that being said, I'm Alex Badajian, and that's Professor Mark McIntyre. We're here with the Alex and Mark Show. We do hope you tune in again later. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share with all your friends.
Bye, Alex.